Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch everyone and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they've pledged you a lifelong commitment. The Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Commitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And this week, we are discussing the 1985 feature film Dreamchild, which premiered on October 4th, 1985, and it's the first film project the Jim Henson Creature Shop worked on outside of the Henson Company, which is why we're discussing it. So yeah, this is, the first in a long string of Creature Shop movies, and I'm sure we won't watch every Creature Shop movie because they do a lot of them, and they get, less important to the overall story of Jim Henson and the Muppets. But I figured this one, being the first one, we should probably discuss it. And it's, interesting.
It's going to be hard to talk about, I think.
Yeah, for a number of reasons that we'll get into. But before we get into that, I do want to address, if you might hear this in my voice, and you might have noticed there was no new episode last week. I'm sick at the moment, some lingering sore throat issues, so sorry if I sound congested or just a little different than normal. But, that's enough about how I'm feeling. Sam, how are you doing? How's, when things like this come up, how's commitment, the concept, feeling to you?
Oh, like when you get sick?
No. When we have to watch things like Dreamchild or Follow That Bird or Jim Henson Presents.
It's all part of a rich tapestry. And honestly, I'd rather watch this kind of stuff than, I like Fraggle Rock. I like Muppet Babies. I love Fraggle Rock. But sometimes when you're 4 weeks deep into an 8-week Fraggle Rock, Muppet Babies back and forth, something like this is fine, even if the movie has about 45 seconds of that. Maybe my biggest problem with it was by the end I was like, was that enough Muppets to count? Was that enough puppetry to really count as something that we had to watch? Which it was. But if this movie had existed, if it was lost media and existed purely as a supercut of all of the moments of puppets, I wouldn't complain about that either.
It almost feels like lost media because when you look this up, there's not a lot of people talking about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel
heard of it. Had you ever heard of it before this?
No, not at all. But I totally agree with you that had I pre-screened this for us, which I often don't do, so we both go in fresh to things we haven't seen, who knows if I would have chosen it for us to watch and discuss, or if I would have just tried to find a compilation of the scenes. But it is a nice break, maybe, from some of our more regularly scheduled programming. We're about to dive into Muppet Babies Season 2 pretty soon, so we've got a lot of that to do. And, just looking through our 2024 schedule, I kind of forget how many seasons of Fraggle Rock and Muppet Babies there really are to watch.
We're almost done with, we're pretty close to done with Fraggle Rock, because its last 2 seasons are short, right?
Yes, but we're not going to finish it until July.
Oh, my God. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Muppet Babies we're not going to finish till cold in the ground, so
yeah, we might be on to season 5 by the end of 2024, but we might not.
I'm still perfectly fine with the concept. It gives me something to build my life around. It gives me something to do, and sometimes we get to be on BBC Radio too.
Yeah, we were just on Radio 2 the other night. It's hard sometimes to go back and find these clips if you want to listen to them. The first time we were on last year, I clipped that out and put it on commitment.com, so you can go find that and listen to it on there. I'm going to try to do the same with this. It might be there now. Who knows? Maybe I forgot. But you can go back for a while and listen on Radio 2's website. It was the O.J. Borg Show from December 7th. The segment was Midnight Mastermind, so you might have to scroll through and track that down. But yeah, we were on there to ask O.J. Borg some more questions about the Muppet Christmas Carol, which is what we did last year. And it was a good time. We have a lot of fun being on Radio 2, which is not a thing I expected us to do when we started doing this podcast. It's also like working with people who have this radio thing so
Yeah,
clearly
that
locked
kicks
in.
ass.
Like they know exactly when to move on to the next segment, when to do things, when to like, you know, they call you into a Zoom call and you can hear the radio playing in the background and you're there. I'm talking to Sam and I'm like, are we on the radio right now? This
It's
feels
really, we didn't talk this time because I was so scared this time. I feel like last time they were like, you guys can talk, but this time they weren't, and I didn't want to be like, oh, hey, Matt. How's it going?
Our voice is just going out to millions of British people who are
Yeah.
like, what are these dumbasses
Who are these,
doing?
Who are these hillbillies? Hi there, everybody.
But just like, you know, working with such a high-end production that really has their shit locked in and knows exactly, you know, of course our voices aren't going out to the radio. They have us muted until they need
Yeah.
us and all this stuff.
But if we were running the radio show, then maybe somebody's voice would be going out that wasn't supposed to.
So yeah, that was a fun time. We do want to try and get OJ on the show sometime. We've talked about it multiple times, and we just got to reach out and book him so we can get OJ on the show.
Yeah. And then other times we get to host a showing of Muppet Christmas Carol at our local theaters. So things are really happening for, if you live in Missoula, Montana, things are really happening for commitment.
If you live in London, England, or Missoula, Montana, commitment's blowing up. Yeah, as you're hearing this, we either tonight or yesterday, maybe as this episode went up.
Well, I have to get it done early because I got to go out of town. So.
Oh, well, yes. Around the time this episode went up,
Yeah.
we are hosting a local screening of the Muppet Christmas Carol at the Roxy Theater in Missoula, Montana, which really just means we sponsored the screening and we are there to introduce it.
Yeah.
And then we sit and watch it with everybody else.
Are you still feeling okay about it? Are you breaking up with me?
No, I am all in. I am committed to the commitment. I am fully locked into this idea. I think it's nice because we get to watch things that I never would have watched ever.
Yeah.
You know, there's a chance Fraggle Rock and The Muppet Show, I would have sat down and watched all of those episodes at some point without this podcast. But things like Jim Henson Presents and Dreamchild are not things I would have just sat down and watched on my own.
Even a lot of Sesame Street stuff. Like,
Yeah.
Or even Follow That Bird. Or I probably would have watched Emmett Otter eventually.
Yeah.
But I hadn't seen it until then for some reason. So.
Yeah, Sesame Street might be the biggest revelation for me as far as things I didn't expect to enjoy because I thought it was just for babies.
But I do think as we get like deeper into it, we're going to start hitting things where I'm a little bit worried I'm going to feel like, oh, this is as I've said many times, Elmo. This is the millionth Elmo thing that we've had to watch. And this maybe is this movie is maybe the first indication of like, oh boy, there's going to be a lot of crap we're going to start wading through pretty soon.
Yeah, the Elmoification of this podcast is going to be an interesting time when we just spend multiple episodes in a row only talking about Elmo.
Yeah, but the creature shopification of it might also be equally challenging.
But the fact that some of those things are also like happening at the same time, that there's Creature Shop movies happening while Elmo's on Rosie O'Donnell, I think will at least keep us sane.
Yeah. I have a question for you, though.
Yeah.
Will we have to watch The Master of Disguise because Creature Shop worked on it?
I think what you're asking is, do we get to watch The Master of Disguise? And the answer is, I don't know. If we choose to. I've never seen it.
Huh. I like
So-
Babe. They worked on Babe.
Yeah, I think we'll play it by ear on some of the Creature Shop movies. If there's a
Right.
call from the audience that they really want to hear us talk about some of those movies, sure. But I think unless there's anything particularly like interesting in the story of the Creature Shop, like if this is the first time the Creature Shop used animatronics,
Sure.
boom, we'll use that. If it's the first time, whatever. If this is the last Creature Shop movie Jim oversaw, we'll talk about those things. But as far as the Creature Shop movies post Jim, there might be less to say, so maybe those things will eke into conversations from time to time, but I don't know that we'd have a lot to say about Babe.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, this just feels like we're watching Ninja Turtles, but not Babe. That seems self-serving to me. Or
Well, but
like-
Jim was there. There's
and he
pictures
was
of him
mad-
on
and
set.
he was mad about it, too.
So I think Ninja Turtles we can talk about, and I think
Okay.
it's also, more importantly, our podcast. So
That's a
we
good point.
want to talk about Ninja Turtles, we can.
Yeah. In 2002, they worked on Snow Dogs, and they made an animatronic demon. What does that mean? There's a
For
demon
snow
in Snow
dogs?
Dogs?
Well, see, now, Sam, you know what you just did?
Demon's one of the dogs, voiced by Jim
Oh.
Belushi, which is so much less cool.
Well, you momentarily made me want to add
I
Snow
was
Dogs
so
to our list
excited
of
for
movies
a
we were going to
second.
watch, and now I've never been less interested in anything. Well, speaking of maybe not the most interesting, what did we watch today, Sam?
We watched Dreamchild, a fictional-ish story about Alice Hargreaves. How do you say it when someone's married?
Oh,
N-E-E with the little link thing over
I
it.
think nay, but yeah.
Listeners, fill in the gap yourself. Little, the real-life person who served as the inspiration for the character Alice in Alice in Wonderland, and her unconventional relationship with its author Charles Dodgson, a.k.a. Lewis Carroll. We find Alice, an old woman, traveling on a ship to America in what must be 1932. She's been invited to Columbia University to deliver the keynote address at a celebration of Carroll's 100th birthday. Traveling with her is her assistant, or something, her nurse, Lucy. Alice is a cranky old lady who disapproves of any fun and seems to control Lucy's life. Alice has also recently become haunted by visions of her past with her family and their teacher, Mr. Dodgson, who's also Lewis Carroll, a stammering, shy, older man who tells Alice and her sisters stories of Wonderland and who also has a romantic fixation on Alice, who's a little girl. She's also tormented by the specters of Wonderland residents who berate her and comment on her advanced age in pretty rude ways. Once they land in America, they're accosted by reporters looking for a scoop, but they're all far too rude in the eyes of an octogenarian English lady, so she's not very cooperative. But one of them, the slightly underhanded Jack Dolan, takes advantage of Lucy's loneliness to sweet-talk his way into she and Alice's hotel room, where he encourages Alice to take all of the interviews and promotional opportunities she can, as she stands to make a lot of money. He also offers to help her navigate all of these offers for a cut of her earnings. Alice agrees and starts doing things like radio commercials where she has to talk about her past and Lewis Carroll, which starts to dredge up more and more painful memories of Carroll being really strange and creepy towards her, and then her complicated feelings back towards him, all of which come to a head one day when Alice mocks him in front of her friends and family, an event that seems to have forever altered their relationship and which she carries around a lot of guilt for. Basically, it's all way more complicated than I was Alice from Alice in Wonderland. Isn't that cool? But nobody around her really knows that or cares to ask her about that. But along the way, of course, after several ups and downs and misunderstandings, Jack falls in love with Lucy and starts to understand what Alice is going through. As her speech at Columbia looms, Jack helps her rewrite it in a way that seems to give her some measure of peace as she sees herself and Mr. Dodgson standing on a beach in Wonderland, forgiving each other for whatever the hell was going on back when they knew each other. And if you're going to the movies in October 4th, 1985, you walk into the lobby, you see one poster for Dreamchild, you see another poster for Arnold Schwarzenegger's Commando, which came out the same day, and which would probably be a better thing for you to go see.
The Barbenheimer of its time.
That is true, yeah.
Dreammando.
Dreamando is a really good name for another Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, I think. On television, The Electric Company ends its 8-year run on PBS, I think also on this exact same day. And another prominent pop culture happening, Michael Jackson won the publishing rights to the Beatles' music in late September of 1985 for $47 million, which is like $131 million after inflation. But that's still quite a steal. That's cheap Beatles.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It feels like one of those priceless types of things where you can tell me a number and I'd say, yeah, that seems right. Freaking, baseball players are getting $700 million to play baseball. So
That's true.
I feel like the Beatles should cost more than that.
I would have guessed a billion. And I also thought this happened way later, which was mostly why I included it. Because I feel like I heard about it so much when I was a kid that it seemed like something that had just happened. But people must have been really hung up on it.
I guess so, because I felt the same, that it felt like something that happened during my lifetime that I had memories of. And I think maybe people just kept talking about it forever.
I think Paul McCartney was really hung up on it because he was the person that Michael Jackson was bidding against for the catalog of the Beatles.
So, getting into Dreamchild, I wanted to note that we had previously brought this movie up because in July 1984, Jim wrote in his journal, Dreamchild begins shooting. This is when this movie started to film. And at that point, we had noted that Lyle Conway is the person who took over the creature shop at that point. He was overseeing the design and construction of these creatures and noted that the budget was very tight on this movie and said it turned out to be 1/4 of the work of Dark Crystal at 10 times the speed. We had 14 weeks to build everything, which is no time at all for us, which is also part of why I believe the puppets on this were not, as complicated hydraulic audio animatronic type of builds, but a lot of them use the old school like tubes and levers hydraulic systems of older puppetry because that was easier and cheaper and faster to build than the more complicated, Gorg faces that they were already using on Fraggle Rock.
Oh, so were they also remote? They must have been remote controlled too, though. Yeah.
I could not find a lot of information about the puppetry behind this. I think there's varying degrees of hand puppets. I think there must be some switches maybe on the hand puppet that they're using while they're puppeteering it, but I don't know that there's a lot of remote puppetry happening for these. But running through, I do want to mention at the top here who we've got playing these characters that, again, we don't see a lot of in this movie, but they are our puppets. We have the March Hare, who is puppeteered by Michael Sundin, who, according to Muppet Wiki, was a trampoline champion who later became an actor, dancer, and puppeteer.
A renaissance man.
Yeah, he previously worked with Brian Henson on Return to Oz, which seems to be maybe how he got into this. And the voice of the March Hare was Ken Campbell, who was a well-known English actor, writer, and director. And in his obituary from 2008, The Guardian said, "He is one of the most original and unclassifiable talents in the British theater of the past century." So he's done a lot of things that you can go look up. The Caterpillar was puppeteered by Mr. Steve Whitmire, the man behind Wembley, Rizzo, Bean Bunny, Kermit, and so many. We know this guy at this point. But the voice of the Caterpillar was done by Frank Middlemass, an English character actor who did way more theater than movies, but also a lot of credits if you want to go look him up. The Dormouse is puppeteered by Karen Prell, the performer behind Red Fraggle. And the voice of the Dormouse is Julie Walters, or Dame Julie Walters, who you may recognize as Molly Weasley in the Harry Potter movies, Rosie in Mamma Mia, but she's also in Brooklyn, Billy Elliot, Paddington, and many, many, many things.
Oh, yeah, she's they're like housekeeper.
Yeah, in Paddington. Yeah.
Right.
And the Mad Hatter, who Muppet Wiki specifically credits the supervision of the design to Lyle Conway, who we mentioned. The Mad Hatter was puppeteered by Big Mick, an actor.
Who's that?
So he was an actor who was a little person inside of the suit of the Mad Hatter, but apparently was called Big Mick. His name is Mick Walter.
There's somebody inside of him?
Yeah.
That sounds dangerous.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Again,
the way
how
his
these things
face
work.
moves just looks like the inside would be like a Five Nights at Freddy ordeal, where there's just like...
And the voice of the Mad Hatter was done by Tony Haygarth, who, according to the internet, was a very busy Liverpudlian character actor who played Renfield in the 1979 Frank Langella version of Dracula, and also Mr. Tweety in Chicken Run. But Muppet Wiki notes that the design of the Mad Hatter was overseen by Lyle Conway, who we mentioned a little bit ago. Lyle Conway also built Agra for the Dark Crystal, and went on to win an Academy Award for designing Audrey 2 for Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He likes making mean, nasty guys.
The Mock Turtle was performed by Steve Whitmire. And the voice of the Mock Turtle was Alan Bennett, another English playwright, author, actor, and screenwriter. And lastly, the last puppet we got here is the Griffin, one of the few puppets, maybe the only puppet in this movie, who gets reused in another Henson property later on, will be seen in the opening credits of the Jim Henson Hour, holding a crystal ball that becomes the O in Hour. The puppeteer behind the Griffin is Ron Muick, who we've talked about previously, because he is the artist who worked with the Henson Company but went on to create these giant, lifelike, creepy sculptures. Sorry, creepy's subjective.
They're just extremely realistic.
Yes, you walk into a room and see like a 20-foot-long baby. To me, that's a little creepy. But for our purposes here, he also handled a lot of the international shoots for Uncle Traveling Matt, and he was the performer inside of Ludo in the Labyrinth. But the voice of the Griffin is Fulton McKay, who played the captain, the British counterpart to Doc, in the UK version of Fraggle Rock.
Whoa.
It's also worth noting here, Sam mentioned that this is based on real life-ish, this movie. It's based on some people's summary of the life of Lewis Carroll and Alice Little, and what maybe happened. There's a lot of controversy surrounding this and a lot of differing points of view on exactly what this relationship was.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about Lewis Carroll before watching this movie.
Mm-hmm.
All I knew was Alice in Wonderland, man.
I didn't know it was not his real name.
Neither did I. They started talking about Dodgson. I was like, who the fuck is Dodgson?
Yeah, and there's not like a moment where they're like, and that was Lewis Carroll. They
Right.
just expect you to be smart enough to know that was his name.
You jerks. That's not us. We're not smart enough to know.
We're Americans, okay?
But the relationship between Dodgson and the Little family is one that a lot of people still speculate about. There are missing pieces of diaries that people claim reveal that Dodgson wanted to marry Alice at some point. Others say it was actually her older sister that he wanted to marry. Some say it was her older sister that was obsessed with him. So there's a lot we don't know, but basically the relationship between Dodgson and the family shown in this movie, where they were very close, hanging out, tutoring the kids, was real. That was happening. And at some point, that relationship broke and he stopped coming around. Why exactly that happened is not 100% known. There are multiple theories out there based on many different sources. So again, this movie takes a pretty hard stance, I think, on what it thinks was happening.
Yeah, yeah.
And, in a different time, maybe somebody is suing people over a movie like this. But
I think if people are dead, you can do whatever you want, can't you?
there's family, though,
Yeah, I guess
probably,
that's
who
true,
could
that's true.
sue on his behalf.
Yeah.
But again, this is not a unique take on the story. Other people have talked about this and have this opinion that this was going on. And just as many people seem to have the flip side opinion, again, based on the research I've done, which is, this week while watching this movie. I am not a biographer of Lewis Carroll.
Yeah. Reading his Wikipedia page while boring things are happening in the movie.
I mean, you're not far off, but it is one of those things that is, I think, worth calling out, that this could be a hard movie to watch for some people.
Yeah.
The way it presents his relationship with the young girls and the way they talk about him is immediately concerning in a way that I, again, knowing nothing about this movie, thought they were going to handle too lightly or were going to brush off and not mention. I didn't realize it was the core of the movie, was this weird relationship. So when it first comes up in the movie and the little girls are telling their mom that oh yeah, Mr. Dodgson tells us secrets all the times and he tells us not to tell anyone. And I'm like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
And the mom's very rightly concerned. I was afraid that was going to be the only moment
Not
like that
concerned
in the
enough
movie.
to fire him, which
No.
maybe would have been a logical course of action.
Yeah. But it's a weird movie.
Yeah.
About a weird, potentially true story.
It's an extremely dark movie.
Oh, yes. You mentioned that the puppets at one point are very rude to Alice. And rude is the nicest way, because the Mad Hatter literally says to Alice, "You should be dead."
Yeah.
He shouts that in her face.
Yeah.
Because, throughout this, we also get the hints that Alice is dealing with early onsets of dementia. And so there's her dealing with her own aging and forgetting things.
Lucy
and,
straight up says she's about to die.
Yeah. And she basically tells Lucy that she's got hours left to live.
Yeah. It's also unclear if she dies on stage giving her speech.
Well, and that was another thing that I looked into a bit, and it seems like Alice herself, the older woman, in real life, was way more into being the Alice from Alice in Wonderland than the character seems in the movie. She wasn't necessarily out there doing tours of, hey, come see Alice.
Right.
But she was not shunning
The
it.
movie implies that she's not even thought or talked about it for 100 years. Seemingly.
Right. She's like, oh, that old thing. I guess that was me. It seems like the real life Alice was well aware of her potential celebrity. I think it was a bit different than it is these days, obviously. But it did not seem like she was as opposed to being the Alice as this movie maybe makes her seem. Also worth noting, the character of Lucy in this movie, completely fictional, did not exist. When she actually traveled to the U.S. to celebrate Lewis Carroll's birth, she came with her son Carol and his sister Rhoda.
She had a son named Carol?
Yeah, who she claimed was not based on Lewis Carroll.
Okay. But she did actually go to America for his 100th birthday.
Yes, that part is true.
Don't know that she gave a speech. I couldn't find that, but maybe she did. She probably said something.
Hey, it's me.
Yeah. She slid in with sunglasses on.
There's also some debate about even how much of Alice is based on this Alice, which the Wikipedia article handles pretty well of saying, like, hey, Lewis Carroll said it's not based on this Alice, but here are the 20 examples from the book of why it very clearly is based on this Alice. Like, her name is in one of the poems, the birthday is her birthday, like all of this stuff.
Acrostic thing, right.
Yeah, like, this is very clearly inspired by this Alice. One thing also that happens in the movie that it feels like a pretty important thing to note because it's used in the movie to make him look extra creepy is his photo shoots that he did with children. We see him doing a photo shoot with Alice in the movie, and it is framed, like much of this movie, in a very creepy light. It is a thing he did in real life. He took lots of photos, mostly of young girls. Wikipedia notes that their parents were present during the photo shoots, which is not the way it is shown in the movie.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not saying what happened, what this man was thinking when he was doing these photo shoots, anything like that. But I will say the framing of the photo shoots in the movie is very different from apparently how it was happening in real life. And this is also, not a new controversy. This is something that's been going on for a long time, these discussions. Even in the original reviews of this movie, Roger Ebert wrote that his biographers have recently revealed that the Reverend Charles Dodgson, who wrote under the pen name Lewis Carroll, had an obsession with young girls, which he satisfied through hundreds of photographic studies and through lots of chummy friendships and correspondence. So, people have been talking about this dude and his obsession with young girls for a long time.
But I guess all that is to say, this movie takes a hard stance.
Yeah.
As you've mentioned.
Ian Holm as Lewis Carroll is no doubt a creep in this movie.
A hard enough stance at the end of the movie is actually kind of like, I don't know what the interpretation is supposed to be of them forgiving each other. Because it is kind of like, he's a creep, but it's also the movie was made in the 80s when maybe people were not quite where they are now.
Yeah.
Where they were like, yeah, he had an obsession with a little girl, and that was bad. But also, maybe it was her fault a little bit, too. I feel like at some parts of the movie, it hints at that.
Yes, there are definitely parts of this movie where
she definitely has an agency in their relationship that is not realistic because she is like participating in it in a way.
Right. Yes, they make her sort of reckon with this thing of like, well, I did love him too. And it's like, right, but you were 7. So there's a difference there. There are moments in the film that I think are being used in a weird way to excuse some of his behavior because they have young Alice run up and kiss him and say she loves him and like ask for these stories to be told. And they show his reaction as if, he was just kissed by the love of his life. And it almost frames that as if like we're supposed to go, oh, I understand his point of view now.
Yeah. Or even the part where she's mean to him at the end when he's reciting a poem.
Right.
It's kind of like, this poor man, she was so cruel to him. At least is what I was getting out of that scene. I don't know if that was the intent, but it definitely is like, how could she do that to him?
If that's not the intent,
they should have made the movie a little bit better. Then.
Yeah, because that's the movie. As hard as it goes on the Dodgson is creepy like side of things, it dips its toe back into the but what did Alice do? Yeah, so many times that it makes it even more uncomfortable.
Yeah, and the whole movie is her dealing with her guilt about being mean to him, I guess, kind of ultimately. Also her, like, him being weird to her, but there is never a line where she's like, he was so freaking weird to me and I was just a little kid.
Yeah, but it also frames it that clearly parts of this still torture her, and the memory of him is a negative one when she sees the puppets show up, when she sees the ghost of him hanging out in one of the hotel rooms.
Oh, yeah, right.
Clearly, he is a negative presence in her life to some degree. So yeah, to end the movie on such a forgiveness angle and say that like, well, I always loved him and he loved me, sort of thing is weird. And I think part of that comes from the fact that no one really knows what was going on as far as this relationship is concerned. So I think it's sort of a having it both ways kind of thing.
Yeah. And it was 1985.
And it was 1985. And many jokes throughout this movie will tell you that it was 1985.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. There's a couple nasty things people say, too.
And yeah, we should just get into talking about this movie, which I think a perfect segue into this is Kevin Thomas in the Los Angeles Times back then said, a film about an aristocratic 87-year-old English woman arriving in Manhattan in 1932 to receive an honorary doctorate from Columbia University and also boasting some of Muppeteer, Jim Henson's whimsical creatures, certainly has to be different.
That's too long of a quote.
Well, yeah, this film has to be different, I guess, because it does open with the Griffin and Mock Turtle right at the beginning. That part was unexpected. I knew there was a tea party scene at some point. I didn't necessarily know how the puppets were used in this movie. But it does set a weird tone for the movie right out the gate.
I mean, it's kind of a promising tone because they are great puppets. I think they look great.
They're so
I think
goopy.
That part is, they're pretty goopy, but they live right by the ocean. They're getting moist, And I love also the setting that they're in. The set has like the ocean, which is made out of fabric that they're like, probably some interns are like, they're doing like the thing with the big parachute that you do in gym class.
Yeah.
But it's like a sparkly piece of fabric and it looks so cool.
Yeah, very dreamlike, very good-looking puppets. The Griffin especially is top-notch. His face is very alive, a lot of character to it. The Mock Turtle, less so. He looks more rubbery and more Halloween mask, but
I would still take that over. CGI is great. It's used in very good applications, but I would take like a character like that looking like the Mock Turtle over the Mock Turtle being CGI.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't think there's a certain element to them being real, there, touchable, in person that makes them creepier. And they're supposed to be creepy in this.
Right.
Like, if you were making a standard, Through the Looking Glass story or, the Disney Channel Alice's Adventures in Wonderland show, and you used these puppets, that would be upsetting.
Yeah, I mean, they're always a teeny bit creepy. I feel like this world, like Wonderland is always a teeny bit creepy, but these guys are beyond the pale. That Disney show you were referring to was kind of creepy.
That's true. You have the White Rabbit man whose face I can not unsee. But this is, if you had this Mad Hatter living in that world instead of the weird breakdancing Mad Hatter that you did have.
Everyone would give him a wide berth.
Yeah. This Mad Hatter looks a lot more like the Leprechaun of the Leprechaun films.
He really does, yeah. When I was watching this, Rachel walked in and she literally yelped and said, "What is that?" when the Mock Turtle was on screen. And then she was sitting next to me, not paying attention, but every time she could tell a puppet was on, she'd look up and be like, "These guys are hideous. They're so horrible."
Mm-hmm.
Which is the point. It's true. And I think they did a really good job.
The puppets are so horrifying because they were based on the original drawings from the original book. But they also specifically asked to have them interpreted towards the darker side. Mm-hmm. So it was like, the drawings are a little crude, so you might take this and make it cuter. We want you to go the opposite way and make it a little bit creepier.
I feel like Jim was like, "Oh, we can do that. Don't you worry about it."
Have you seen The Dark Crystal?
We were going to make them creepy anyway. We just weren't going to tell you.
Alice is played by Coral Brown, an actress known for, a bunch of things. But one of the things I thought was really interesting is that this film had a limited theatrical release. And so she was so proud of this movie that she went on a self-funded promotional tour of the U.S.
I mean, she's really good in it.
She is really good. Also worth noting, she was married to Vincent Price.
What? Really?
Yeah. At this time, I believe. I think...
he was still around?
I think they were married until her death. I think they did movies together and then got married.
Oh, yeah. She was in Theater of Blood, which is a great movie.
But obviously, we have her. We have Peter Gallagher playing the reporter. Jack, I think is just his name. So obviously I recognized him. I recognize Ian Holm playing Dodgson
because he's Bilbo Baggins.
He's freaking Bilbo. But the only other person in this movie I recognized was the other priest who is rowing the boat that they're in.
Yeah. Who was that guy?
He is Mace Tyrell from Game of Thrones.
Oh.
But he's also in Gangs of New York. He's in Brazil. He's in Christopher Robin. This man is just in a lot of things.
Right.
But most famously, I think, at this point, is Game of Thrones. But he's just a delightful little priest in this movie. And he's apparently based on a real guy, too. Like, there was another priest that would row with them down the rivers.
Great.
Don't worry, based on a real guy.
Yeah.
But we meet Alice and Lucy when they're on the boat headed to America. And I will say the biggest issue I have with this movie is, one, it feels like there was a lot cut out of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Two, it feels like a TV movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I thought it was a TV movie until I looked at, until partway through and I started reading the Wikipedia.
The reason I say I think there was a lot cut out is because there's a lot of really weird transitions between scenes where you're like, I feel like I missed 20 minutes of what just happened.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that would work better in a TV movie where you have a commercial break.
Right.
Whereas here, it just cuts from a person walking out of the room to a person walking into a new room like hours later.
Several days later or something.
Yeah.
The time frame of how long this all takes is also very confusing to me because it seems like she's in America for months, which maybe she is, but the amount of time between getting there and giving her speech, I would think would be like 2 days. But she gets a lot done in those 2 days, if it's 2 days.
It does feel like it's probably just a weekend, but I think traveling by ship to the U.S. probably also took a few days.
Yeah.
So I think, I'm not exactly sure the time frame. And when we're jumping in and out of flashbacks and all that stuff, it does make it more confusing.
Yeah. But it seems like Jack and Lucy have known each other for like several years by the end of the movie.
They do fall in love remarkably fast, based on very little chemistry and very little interaction. They have like one dance, and that's about it. And they're like, I love you, marry me.
Yeah. And he already has a girlfriend or something, too.
Yeah, another reporter who he flirts with.
A sassy reporter dame.
I thought we were going to get like a Roman Holiday kind of story where he was pretending to not be a reporter in order to befriend them and get to know them and all this stuff. And there's like a hint of that because it's very similar at the very beginning to Roman Holiday where he's at the newspaper office and he gets fired and he goes off on his own and goes rogue to try and track them down.
Yeah.
And that part all feels very Roman Holiday. But then he just is like immediately like, yeah, I'm a reporter.
Yeah.
But I'm a good one.
But then at the same time, partway through the movie, it's like, oh yeah, I've been taking 20% of all of her money. But does they ever mention that before that part?
No, that's one of the really awkward cuts is when she starts doing that radio commercial that you mentioned.
Yeah.
They go from having a conversation where it's kind of unclear whether or not she wants to do this to her in a recording booth. And you're like, I guess they decided yes.
Yeah.
And the transitions into all of the flashbacks that Alice has at the beginning feel very over dramatic because they come out of nowhere. You just have this like cantankerous old woman who you're not sure why she's so mad or what happened. And you're getting this, I guess rightfully so, tone set of the flashbacks are not happy. Like Lewis Carroll ruined her life in multiple ways.
Yeah.
But this is when we get to see their first flashback of Ian Holm as the math professor, listening to Alice and the sisters, and this is when the mom is concerned.
He's like creeping around outside the window, listening in on their conversation.
Yeah, and the daughters say that Mr. Dodgson confesses things to them, and one of the daughters says, he loves us. He loves all of us. And there's like a 10-second pause in the movie where we're all just left to think about that statement.
Yeah, we see the mom like purse her lips and be like, okay, something's going on here. I won't do anything about it, but duly noted.
Yeah, there's a weirder note, and I think it's in the IMDb trivia or something about this movie, that the dad was supposed to be a character in this movie. He is the dean who I guess Dodgson works for or with. But the producer just didn't like the actor, and so got him cut out of the movie.
Oh, great. So he was filmed and everything.
Yeah. There was apparently, I don't remember the full story, not important to this discussion really, but the producer didn't want this actor in the movie, like tried to stop him from getting cast.
What?
And then he was cast and filmed. And so then it was like, all right, well, let's just cut him out of the movie entirely. But yeah, so obviously that's another weird, complicated story on top of this movie that we don't know all the ins and outs of. But there was definitely an attempt to keep that person out of this movie. There are some good, I feel like Lewis Carroll type lines in this movie, and maybe they're taken straight from the book. I haven't read the original Alice in Wonderland, so I'm not going to know. But they're asking Alice to basically, be Alice. What they want is they want the young Alice. They want the Alice from their childhood. And she says, it would be difficult to be what I once was, but it's impossible to be what I never was. Which is a very good line.
I guess that's the thesis of the whole movie in a way.
Yeah. And I think it's, I think it's very interesting that I think is not necessarily explored as deeply as it could be.
Mm-hmm.
Because after that, she suddenly has this sudden attack overcome her. And she says another fascinating line because they're rightfully concerned, where she just suddenly has this attack and sits down. And she says, "Oh, someone or something stepped on my grave. That's all."
You never heard that before?
No.
Oh, I say that all the time.
In what context?
When you get like when you get the shiver, you get like a weird feeling down your spine.
Yeah.
And you're like, somebody stepped on my grave. You never heard that before? I thought that was
I don't think so.
I thought that was very common. Maybe because
No.
Rachel says it too, and she said it independently of me.
Huh.
We both knew what that meant.
I must have heard it, but not common enough for me to. I've never said it.
It's like when you get the pee shivers, You're like, oh, every time I get done peeing, somebody walks on my grave.
Someone peed on my grave.
Exactly.
Well, I guess at this point, I'm curious. Sort of, we've touched on it, but as a movie, what do you think?
I think this movie has 3 scenes in it in the whole movie, and it takes 2 hours to get done. She's on the boat. She's in her hotel room for about an hour and a half. And then she's in the radio station for about 10 seconds. And then she goes to Columbia. And that's the whole movie, basically. Interspersed, there's other kind of littler things that happen. But overall, this movie was so boring.
It's like if you imagine Titanic was 90% the woman telling the story in the future.
That is a great way to put
and
it.
10% Leo and Kate.
If it was just looking at an old lady talking about stuff for a long time.
And I think Coral Brown is great.
Yeah.
She is amazing in this role. I understand why she liked her role in this movie so much that she wanted to promote it. And her character, as like a woman who's coming to terms with her age and death and what happened to her in her past, is really interesting. I just don't think the movie overall is very interesting.
No. And the interesting part of the movie is the part that they gloss over, which is him kind of tricking them, which is really underplayed because he kind of is a scumbag. Like Jack, the reporter guy, like there's a scene later on in the diner when like it all comes to a head and Lucy gets mad. But that's another moment where like Lucy's kind of like figuring out what's going on and she storms out because she's mad at both of them. And that's another moment where it's like, this is your problem, lady. Like Lucy's the one who has to apologize at the end, even though Jack is the one who's like enriching himself off of this woman's memories. And also Alice is really, really mean to her. I was just like, I don't know what the point now that I think about it of Lucy's story is in all of this, except just to fall in love with the con man, basically.
Well, and he is a con man to a point because at the point where he starts talking to Alice about these opportunities and he mentions there's a lot of money to be made, then she's like, oh, money, you say?
Right. So she's in, I guess.
Yeah, I think the more degrading thing she has to do as far as like the radio commercial and stuff, she's not as on board with and Lucy seems to be against. But the idea of like, he didn't necessarily trick her into doing it. He said, hey, they'll pay you a lot of money to be on the radio. And they hint that there's more things that she's been doing that we don't see her do.
Right.
I guess, again, how long is she there? Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
But she's done some interviews. Potentially there's like a chance of doing a film that she can sign off on and say is good to go. So there's a lot of weird things happening that they don't want you to pull any threads and try to unravel, I don't think.
Yeah. That movie was real that they're talking about,
Yeah.
too. And I looked it up, and it was such a flop that Hollywood was like, maybe we should never make a fantasy movie ever again. And then The Wizard of Oz was like the next big one that came along.
They're like, well,
all right, I guess
never
this is
mind.
fine. Yeah.
It's nice to see that Hollywood was still doing the same fickle things back then as it is now, where it's
really
like
nothing ever changes.
like, oh, Spider-Verse did well. What if every animated movie looked like Spider-Verse?
Yeah.
And then it's like one of them doesn't work. It's like, let's never do an animated movie ever again.
I wonder what you think about this. I wish that they had just made an Alice in Wonderland movie, because I think it would have looked amazing.
Yeah.
It would have had a plot that maybe something like Dark Crystal is a little bit lacking in, like a coherent plot that maybe like adapting something like Alice in Wonderland with the high artistry of the Creature Shop stuff, I think that would have been far more engaging and probably would have been a movie that people would be like, remember that nightmarish Alice in Wonderland movie? And everybody in the world would know about it, instead of just like, hey, look at this crazy picture of the Mad Hatter's horrible, horrible face. And that's all people know about this movie.
Yeah, Jim Henson's Alice in Wonderland, I think, would be an interesting take. There does seem to be a 1999 version of Alice in Wonderland that features Martin Short as the Mad Hatter.
Oh, I feel like I've seen this before.
This one feels familiar to me.
Yeah.
It's got a hell of a cast. Gene Wilder as the Mock Turtle, Robbie Coltrane as Tweedledum. But apparently Jim Henson's Creature Shop provided some animatronic characters to this, such as the Griffin and White Rabbit and March Hare. So, yeah, there is, again, not exactly what we want as far as the Jim Henson Alice in Wonderland, but
No.
maybe we'll watch that one eventually too.
The Gene Wilder Mock Turtle is just Gene Wilder in a big turtle shell.
What else would you want, Sam?
I guess that's all you could really ask for. But yeah, I mean, I really liked... I thought the puppetry in this was extremely impressive, even if they say that it was done on a budget. And I just was so disappointed that there wasn't more of it, because there really is genuinely very, very little of it.
I think there's 4 scenes basically in total that we see. And getting actually into the second one there, it comes after a moment where Lucy has gone off with Jack to do some dancing and leaves Alice alone in her hotel room. She wakes up and is distraught and confused. And this is when we see a menacing Ian Holm standing in the corner of a hotel room. And then we cut to the tea party scene from Alice in Wonderland with the terrifying Mad Hatter, March Hare, and Dormouse.
The Dormouse is okay. Just
Dormouse
verging
isn't
on
creepy.
terrifying.
Yeah.
She's fine.
Looks more like a ROUS from Princess Bride.
Yeah, but a really cute one.
Yeah, like the baby of an ROUS.
Yeah.
But overall, nightmare fuel. The eyes blink separately and slowly, which was unsettling. They all kind of look like they're melting a little bit. The March Hare, I will say, I think as a character design works better than the Mad Hatter. The Mad Hatter is just like a creepy mask. And the March Hare gets a lot of close-ups where his creepy mouth and teeth are just wiggling around at you.
The Mad Hatter maybe could have afforded to just be a guy.
Yeah.
I think that maybe would have been okay.
Could have been Martin Short. Why not?
Yeah, sure. He was around.
But this is, this is a little bit more straightforward as far as seeing how she's dealing with aging. Because this is when they start yelling at her.
Not a lot of metaphor in this part. They're just like, fuck you, old lady.
And it becomes very clear that this is a nightmare about her dementia affecting her memory. Cloaked in this story that this man who traumatized her life told her. And so again, interesting concept for storytelling. Just made into a movie that is not that interesting.
Yeah.
But after that's when they come back and they convince Alice, now that money's involved, they can make some money doing some radio spots and other things. And this is when we get another very jarring cut, this time to the reporter in a jazz club. And this is another part where you're like, something got deleted here.
Well, I don't even know why he had to have a girlfriend and have that scene where where she leaves him basically.
Yeah, it doesn't really affect anything else in the movie. And as far as you were talking about the Lucy character being sort of confusing as well, like we get hints that she is an orphan, and she says something about like, I don't know, she seems to imply that makes her, in her words, like useless back in England. That like she can't get a job there, no one wants her. Alice is the only one who treats her with any respect.
Orphans are like the superhero of England. If books are to be believed. If the works of Charles Dickens are to be believed, they're the most important. They make the whole entire economy go around. They're sweeping chimneys. They're turning into lords and ladies. The whole country revolves around orphans.
But yeah, like scenes like that, I think they don't make the movie worse. They just make it jarring and confusing when suddenly I'm like, why are we here? Who is this person? Oh, it doesn't really matter. Moving on.
They make it longer.
Yes,
also.
They make it longer. But after that's when we get to see her trying to record her radio commercial, and she keeps messing it up because
she's having reveries of her past.
Yeah, where we get to see the caterpillar puppet this time. This face, I think, is maybe even more upsetting than Mad Hatter because it's very human.
Because it just looks... This one really looks like a guy.
Yeah.
The Mad Hatter's is so, like, crumpled up and leprechaun-y that it doesn't look like a guy. But the caterpillar just looks like some dude's face on a bug.
He hints towards dementia and repressing upsetting memories and letters from Mr. Dodgson to Alice. Like, he's sort of bringing it all together in what he's talking about. Just sort of being like, hey, don't forget your terrible life. But I do think Steve Whitmire did a really good job puppeteering that caterpillar. Well, coming out of that fantasy, now we're into another moment where now they're asking Alice to endorse the new Paramount movie that we just talked about. And this is where we get another weird, hard cut of something that must be missing. Alice apologizes for the way she did the radio performance. Like when they're at the diner, she's like, I'm so sorry about the way I was. And it cuts to Lucy asleep in bed. And we're like, that's weird. Like, what happened after the diner? Like, we're just now in bed with Lucy. And that's when you hear Alice and Jack talking in the other room.
There's like no character development of any of the characters. It's just like everybody's standing around talking. And then the next scene, they have had some kind of revelation off screen.
Right.
Where they are like, now I want to be best friends with this old lady. And then it'll be like, now this old lady has told me her entire life and I'm helping her rewrite her speech. Which that would have been the more interesting part of the movie. Cut out Lucy completely. Just have Alice come to America.
Right.
Jack meets her. Jack's taking advantage of her. He's maybe stealing her money a little bit. Eventually,
you could do the Roman holiday thing where he is trying to act as the nice guy because he is partially actually a nice guy.
Yeah.
But he's helping her write a good speech and relive these moments, deal with the troubling parts of it. And eventually she can find out he actually is a reporter who is getting something out of this. But by then he's done so many good things that she doesn't care.
And and then that's enough. Like, they don't even have to have a love story. Having a love story feels like somebody gave them a note that was like, well, this needs to have a little more steam to it.
Well, in the next moment after Jack came back so she could tell him the stories is when Lucy says she's in love.
But they just had a huge fight because Jack's taking advantage of this old lady and being a creep.
There's been no evidence that these two are in love. We saw them dancing together once. They seemed to enjoy it. But other than that, we saw them at the radio studio with Alice. We saw them at the diner with Alice.
Yeah.
And then we see them here where she was asleep and he was hanging out with Alice.
Yeah.
That's the only really times we see them hanging out together.
And we're really far into the movie. And it's weird to think...
this is almost the end.
To try to think about, like, what happened to this movie? Like, how could they fill up 2 hours of time? Because it's kind of a long movie, too. And I genuinely have no idea, like... Nothing made an impact. There's no like big pivotal scene except Alice. Like every scene she has is great, but then there's all these people around her who just feel like ghosts, basically.
Well, and it feels like they also didn't have answers for some of those questions as far as what happens now, because every time something interesting is about to happen, they cut away to a flashback or to a fantasy sequence.
Right.
And they sort of let it deal with itself in there in ways that don't make a lot of sense, because this is the one where after she says to Lucy, I can tell when someone's in love, we cut to the quite complicated scenes where we see young Alice talking to Dodgson, and this is where it sort of starts to imply that she was in love with him as a 7-year-old.
Right, because now at this point she's met her future husband. They're hanging out on the banks of this river. Her future husband's there, she's there, her whole family's there. And he's reciting the poem, and they're all laughing at him because this is the part where she has like too much agency for a child, where it's like she recognizes that he's in love with her, and it's less so like, oh, that's creepy, and more so just like, this, like, I don't know. She's mean in that. Like, she's the villain of that scene.
Yes, this presents him as like the sad man who she is being cruel to, which, like, yes, she is being like, they're being a jerk to him in this scene, but it is framed as like, oh, you two had a relationship and now you're being the shitty ex-girlfriend.
Right. Exactly. That is exactly how it's framed.
And so, yeah, very odd that is the memory this movie goes out on.
It even shows her at the end of that scene, like hugging him and kissing him on the cheek, which doesn't like that seems like it undercuts the point too. Cause like that makes it confusing as to where their relationship ended up. When if it didn't, because none of this is real. So
Right.
if that didn't happen, then she could be like, and I never saw him again or something like that.
Right. And it also is like, okay, earlier on, your relationship is him being like overly friendly with young girls.
Yeah.
And now the relationship is you negging him, but
Yeah.
then him being okay with it. Like you're the mean one in this relationship who's doing the
Yeah.
wrong thing. Like I don't really know what it wants us to think about them at the end of this.
Right.
Because then it just turns into her giving her speech and acknowledging like this real love between Dodgson and her that she's
Yeah.
talking about. And so I don't know what this movie wants us to think about Dodgson.
Because at the beginning, he is so classically framed as evil.
Yeah, he is the
Listening outside
villain
the window,
of this.
lurking around.
Again, that shot of him in the hotel, which is like 3/4 halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
He is truly like the embodiment of evil in this. Like she is walking around there. It's like the moment from The Shining. Like she turns a
Yeah,
corner
that's what I
and
was
she
gonna say,
sees
too.
him and she's terrified.
Yeah. He is a malevolent ghostly presence for sure. Like it's a horror movie shot. And he is the monster. And then at the end, they're like holding hands on the beach.
Yeah. Whereas like I feel like her dealing with having to give a speech complimenting this man while reckoning with her true feelings about him is a more interesting way to tell that story.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it's really complicated because it's not necessarily a true story. So it's like, it's a not true story about a real it's a not necessarily true story about a real person. So then at the end, you kind of have to like encompass all the possibilities of it, of what the relationship was.
And I think that's exactly the problem. Is I think it just is trying to have it so many different ways.
Yeah.
It's trying to sell you on this idea of like, here's the creepy stuff Lewis Carroll was doing, but also we don't have 100% proof that's exactly what was happening. So we want to end it on a more positive note. So there was some sort of love there. Here we go.
And it's also kind of weird to be like, and the lady who was Alice was just a nasty old woman.
They make her very mean, which
She's
again,
so
I don't know
mean.
enough about Alice Hargraves in her later life to know how
Yeah.
mean she really was, but
Yeah.
they do make her really unlikable in some of these moments. It seems like there's recordings on Columbia University's archives website of the speech she gave,
Okay.
or at least parts of it that you can go listen to. So again, I'm not sure how much the speech she gives in this movie is to the speech, like how similar they are to the speech she gave in
Yeah.
real life. But yeah, I think overall it is interesting to tackle something like this in this very unique way. Like to not only try to tackle the sort of creation of Alice in Wonderland, but also the relationship between the author and these kids, and also the dementia and aging, which I don't actually even know if Alice Hargraves had dementia.
Yeah.
It feels weird to say I hope she did, but for the sake of the storytelling, it would be a weird thing to make up for a movie.
Yeah. Totally.
So I'm assuming that thing is based on real life, but it is overall, I think, kind of an unsuccessful attempt.
I think something that, as you were saying that, is like, I'd rather just watch a documentary about this
Yes.
stuff.
Yes, I think that would be just as interesting. You wouldn't have the cool puppets, but we get cool puppets like elsewhere in the world of Jim Henson. We don't necessarily need them for this story.
And like every movie about something about the past has a lot of stuff that's wrong.
Oh,
But
yeah.
this one is particularly weird where you're just reading, like, she really did go to Columbia and talk. So there's like these little strands woven throughout it that make it at the end. You're like, well, I don't know what the hell I'm supposed, like, what happened for real? What am I supposed to believe here?
And I get that it's, you're making a complicated movie about a complicated person that
Mhm.
people still can't agree exactly what Lewis Carroll was like. So you have to choose a side to make a movie about him. You can't just make a super ambiguous movie. But in the end, I think some things do become a little too ambiguous. So yeah, The ending really, I think like I enjoyed myself throughout most of it. Are parts of it boring? For sure. Is it a little too long at times? Yes. Are there the weird jarring cuts that made me really confused for a moment? Yes. I think I enjoyed watching the movie more than you did for the majority of it. The ending just sort of fell off a cliff for me where I was like, oh, so you're not really saying anything.
Yeah. I wrote down that this felt the longest of anything that we've watched.
Wow.
We watched 10 hours of commercials. This felt longer than that. I paused it 4 different times to see how far I was. And each time I was like a quarter of the way through and I was like, how can this torture continue anymore?
Okay, yes. You definitely disliked it more than I did then.
It wasn't the content. It wasn't like the story they were telling or anything. I just found this movie extremely boring. Coral was great as Alice. The Wonderland parts looked amazing, I thought. And I was just like, oh, I either wish this had been more about one thing or the other. And ultimately, I wish they had just made an Alice in Wonderland movie.
Yeah, and the ending too. Like, not only do we get the weird speech, but we also get the moment at the end where the Griffin and the Mock Turtle are there with Alice and Dodgson.
Yeah,
we're both very happy, and everyone laughs and laughs.
They're all yucking it up at the end, and then they all just like stop moving, and the lights dim. That was weird too. Did she die up there?
Is that her heaven? Is the Mock Turtle, the Griffin, and Dodgson? It's like the end of Titanic.
You know, I've seen the deleted, like the other ending where she throws the necklace off the thing and everybody sees her do it. You know that what I'm talking about, where the guy's like, "That really sucks, lady."
I have seen that. Yeah.
I've seen that so many times that I genuinely don't know what the ending of Titanic is. What? Does that part just not happen? Like she goes by herself and throws it in the water.
You definitely see her throw it off, but you don't see anyone see her.
You don't see anyone say, "That really sucks, lady."
That's definitely not in there. I think it's also been probably 10 years since I've watched Titanic, but I think you see that, and then I don't know if before or after that, you see the part where she walks into the grand staircase and is greeted by young Jack.
Right, and Jack is there, right.
So the grand staircase scene, is the Mock Turtle Griffin scene.
Is her on a dirty beach with 2 monsters. 3 monsters, I guess, and also dying.
Yes, and similarly, her relationships and marriages she had later in life, not present in her afterlife.
That's true, yeah.
Because the old woman in Titanic got married, had a whole happy life.
Yeah.
They are not there, just young Leo DiCaprio.
Wow. I really think that the Titanic, you saying that this is like Titanic if you were just watching the old lady talk about it, that's the best, that's the most damning and most correct thing you could say about this movie.
Did you have a favorite puppet? Did you have a favorite moment in the movie? Anything that you did like that stood out?
I think I liked the Mock Turtle and the Griffin way more than you did, because I thought that was really fun, and that's not like, I don't know anything about this book,
right.
But that's not like a part of the book that you see brought to life or animation ever, I guess, because it's just weird and confusing and they're horrifying. But I liked that part. I liked all the puppet parts a lot. Like when the end of the movie happened and I was like, oh, they were in the movie for 2 minutes. I was very disappointed in that. I just wish it had been a fun movie instead of one of the saddest movies I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I necessarily recommend people go out and watch this one, even though I did enjoy it more than you. But I would say the puppet parts are worth checking out. And it is free to watch on Plex. So if you just want to skim through and find the puppet parts, I think those are worth checking out. Well, now is when we would normally talk about Muppets of the Week. But, we have no Muppets this week. And we did all sort of the Muppet of the Week stuff at the beginning of the episode. So,
are these guys Muppets? They're creatures.
These guys are creatures. Absolutely not Muppets. But we went through all the performers and stuff at the beginning of this episode. So we kind of did a Muppet of the Week segment at the beginning.
Will we have Creatures of the Week someday?
Ooh. Hadn't thought about it. Those are usually just like one-offs, though. But they don't get reused a lot. So everything there is to learn about them, you mostly learn in the thing you see them in.
You're right.
But maybe if there's a specific creature people want us to deep dive into, or there's one that for some reason gets used a lot on the Jim Henson Hour or something. But I don't know. This is our first real toe dipping into the world of creatures outside of actual Henson projects. Well then, Sam, I must ask, what non-Muppet things, besides this, did you enjoy this week?
I've been playing a lot of Fortnite. It's a detriment to my life. They released Lego Fortnite. Not very fun. Not worth your time.
So is Lego Fortnite just Fortnite but looks like Lego?
No, that would be better. It's so weird because it's a Minecraft killer kind of thing is what they're trying to do. So this week they released 3 new games that all exist in the same like ecosystem as Fortnite. So you launch the Fortnite app and you have a Rock Band game because they bought the company that made Rock Band and they made a new Rock Band. They made a racing game, which looks really boring. And they made Lego Fortnite, which is supposed to be like Minecraft. But you're just like, I don't know. It's weird because it doesn't use the same building interface as regular Fortnite, which is way more intuitive than the building interface that they have made for Lego Fortnite. Because people can build huge towers in like a millisecond. But in this one, you're just like, push X 5 times, navigate to this menu. And you can't dig or anything either. So there's like, you can't do any of the stuff you can do in Minecraft. You just are like building really clumsy stuff on the Fortnite map, but you can't even like flatten the ground or anything. So everything is just like, it's really weird. I don't know what the point of it is. But if they make Lego Fortnite sets, I'm going to buy them.
Of course you will.
There's that. But then I also saw Godzilla -1.
Ooh, I really wanted to see it, but I've been sick.
Rachel loved it. I have a couple other friends who went to see it independently, and they all really liked it. I didn't love it.
Ooh.
To me, it felt like kind of like this movie. It felt like a Hallmark movie.
It's just Godzilla sitting there telling people about his childhood.
It's like, that's not off. That's not too far off. It is this guy, and he's so sad, and a bunch of bad things happen to him, and then Godzilla shows up a few times, and his life just sucks. Basically, it's about a guy whose life sucks, and it's really, really good, and people. Like my friend who saw it was like, it's one of the best movies I saw this year. I can't actually argue with that because it was very good.
Yeah.
I think it's just not what I am.
You are a Godzilla connoisseur.
I'm a dumbass. And I love it when Godzilla is the good guy. I love it when he gets his ass kicked by King Ghidorah. He has to go into the ocean to take a nap, and then he comes back out and he's like, I got it this time. I'm going to beat your ass. And then he does. Godzilla in this movie is so mean. He's the meanest Godzilla I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
But he looks cute. And so that was my main problem with it. He looks like the Godzilla from, I don't know how much Godzilla you've seen, but there's a bunch of different series. There's the classic series of Godzilla with its own timeline.
Right.
Then after that, there was like the late, like the 90s Godzilla. And he was a good guy Godzilla too. And he's adorable. And he's the Godzilla that they modeled this one off of. So he kind of just has like this cute little face, but he's stomping around, eating people and being horrible.
He's not like the terrifying Shin Godzilla, right?
He should have looked like Shin Godzilla, in my opinion. That I think would have. He does not look like that at all. Shin Godzilla looks like a fish creature from the bottom of the ocean. And that's the way they talk about this Godzilla. They're like, he's so horrid. But then you see him and he's like, hi guys, I'm Godzilla. And so I just, there's something that I didn't connect with this movie. And I don't know what it is, but I'd love to. But it does do the thing where it's like, this is a Godzilla movie that'll make you care about the people. First of all, I always care about the people. Second of all, though, it's this guy and his friends, and it's like post-war Japan, and they like work on this boat clearing mines out. And those parts are delightful because this little crew of guys is so like, they're like so fun. And then you kind of have to watch them figure out like how to build like this basically like a mousetrap, kind of like the game Mousetrap, to kill Godzilla.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting.
Not an actual giant mousetrap with a giant piece of cheese that just snap.
Yeah. Put a big nuclear bomb on there, and then Godzilla comes eats it. So that it's fun. It's like there's a lot of like fun problem solving and a lot of fun characters, and a lot of parts that are genuinely really sad. But it just had like a Hallmark movie quality to it that at the end of the day I was like, there's just something that I wasn't attaching to in this movie. We've also been watching Monarch though, and that show sucks.
What?
You like it? Do you watch it?
Yeah, that was my thing I was going to say. That's my non-Muppet thing I've been enjoying this week is Monarch.
Sucks is too hard. Okay, well, I'll let you get into it. You talk first. Sucks is too hard of a word, I will say that. I have been enjoying it, but there's no Godzilla in it.
Sam, that's the point.
Mm.
That you were just saying about like the shows that make you, like the movies that make you care about the people. The whole point of this show is to make you care about the people who are affected by Godzilla.
But the legendary movies already do that so well. I feel like the movies do that, like that version of Godzilla already is so much about the people that if you like Monarch, you will love Godzilla -1, I think.
Interesting. Yeah, no, Kurt Russell, I think is great.
Yeah.
Wyatt Russell, also good, playing young version of his dad.
He's not great though, is he? He's not.
I mean,
he's not great like Kurt Russell.
No one's great like Kurt Russell is the problem. Yeah. And like, so he has not only in life does Wyatt Russell have this bar to measure up to of like, hey, we know your parents. They're super cool. Are you cool?
They're cool and sexy.
No one is Kurt Russell cool. Like it's impossible. Yeah. Like the moment he shows up in Monarch and he's Kurt Russell cool, you're like, oh yeah, there he is.
Hell
he's the best.
He really is the best.
Yeah. And so I think Wyatt Russell he shouldn't try to emulate that Kurt Russell. Yeah. And he doesn't. He doesn't try to be the cool, wackier Kurt Russell. But I think there is something a little bit like when you see Wyatt Russell, you're like, yeah, but where's Kurt at?
Exactly. It's also funny that Anders Holmes is going to turn into John Goodman in like 7 years. To like elderly John Goodman too.
Yeah, I guess 20 years.
Okay.
But still, they're definitely playing with the age thing.
Uh-huh.
Because Anders Holm becomes John Goodman in 20 years, but yet Wyatt Russell is supposed to like become like 90 years old, but only look like Kurt Russell. So something about like he ages slower, but Anders Holm aged faster.
There is a line where they're like, wow, you're 90. How do you look so good? And you're running around. He's like, I got good genes. What?
But then they mention it again in another episode. So very clearly this is something that is unnatural. He is not supposed to look this good.
Right.
And it's not just because they wanted to cast Kurt Russell. It's supposed to be that like, yes, he is 90, but I'm guessing something about the Hollow Earth messed up the way aging works.
Yeah. And that's my other question. Is that what this is all leading to, them discovering Hollow Earth?
Yeah.
I just feel like I know so much about Hollow Earth.
It is weird to set a movie in between movies that we've already seen.
Right.
Like it's after the 2014 Godzilla movie, but before we've seen Kong and Godzilla and all them fighting.
Before two movies that have a lot of Hollow Earth content in them.
Yes. So yes, it's a very interesting time to pick, but I like it. It's a fun show. So before we go, we need to let you know what we'll be watching next time. And just a heads up, next time will be after the holidays because we are taking a 2-week break so we can enjoy the holiday weekends and just rest and not have to record or edit podcasts.
Yeah, the burden of watching Muppet stuff is too much for us.
So next time we will be back is the week of January 9th, and we will be discussing Little Muppet Monsters, which was a show that aired alongside Muppet Babies on Saturday mornings in the fall of 1985, but only got a few episodes in before it was canceled. So we're going to watch the 3 episodes that aired and some segments from 3 other episodes that did not air. And all of those have been compiled on archive.org, and you can check out our socials to see exactly where you can watch those things. And we will also be joined by Mr. Tough Pigs himself, Joe Hennis, to discuss this little weird flop of Jim Henson.
I'm so excited to see what could have possibly made them say 3 episodes in, no, sir, you cannot make this show.
The first thing I will say is that from just glimpsing some of it, it seems like something that they didn't know what they wanted from it because there's puppet segments, there's cartoon segments, there's grown-up Muppet cartoons where Frank Welker is still doing the Kermit voice, but he's doing adult Kermit, not baby Kermit. And so it just seems like they had too many ideas crammed into one show. They tried pitching it as Muppet Babies and Monsters as one big show that you watch back to back, but also that was actually 2 separate shows. So I think it's just kind of a mess. And it kind of bit him in the ass. But we'll find out next time, again, in a couple of weeks when we're discussing Little Muppet Monsters. So we need to thank our friend Tuna for making the music for this podcast and Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. Don't forget to go to commitmentstuff.com to check out all of our cool merch, including a Don Celine Makes a Hell of a Puppet t-shirt and a Keep Believing, Keep Pretending hat. You can contact us via our website, commitment.com, or email us at mail@commitment.com. And you can follow this podcast everywhere on social media at commitmentpod. And follow me at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And as always, keep believing.
Keep pretending.